UFC 311, it's happened. For the most part, it was actually a pretty good card, but that mostly consists after the first half, because the first half, we saw a bunch of the prelims, not the most exciting fights, lots of decisions, but once it hit to the Guskov fight, shit started to really kind of pick up. We saw Umar Nurmagomedov, the Nurmagomedov family, the clan in general, the bloodline finally take their first loss. They're like 80-1 now, or some wild shit like that. We saw Prochazka restore peace in the MMA world, showed that the MMA gods really are looking out for us, showed a little bit of sanity here. Islam Makhachev and Merab Dvalishvili are now, in my opinion, and I hope most people's opinions, the new lightweight and bantamweight goats. And we saw multiple undefeated fighters in general lose their oath tonight. Lots of fraud checks were here, and some of them not even fraud checks. Let's call them healthy fucking learning lessons. But basically, we're going to be breaking down and doing a recap of UFC 311. We're just going to be starting with the main event and then ending with Tagir Bekoev versus Clayton Carpenter. So, going into this fight, I understand that we all would have preferred to see Makhachev versus Saryukian too. It was as high level as it gets. It would have been, in most people's opinions, like the closest thing, realizing someone at lightweight that could actually take the belt off of Islam. Arman had the striking, he had the wrestling, he had the cardio. He's coming off a solid win over Charles fucking Oliveira. And now, as Dana revealed in the post-fight presser, Arman's not getting another title shot. So Islam is either going to face like a winner of a Justin Gaethje and Dan Hooker, or he's going to face a Shavkat and Bilal. But Dana was not happy at all with Arman in the post-fight presser. So Arman, back to the drawing board, buddy. Back at the line, man. I don't want to be one that's like talking about what it's like for fighters to be injured and like if they can fight or cannot, because like it's probably like a whole different level of pressure in there, and like only they know how they're feeling. But Dana, and he said that he really trusts the team doctor that they have, and the team doctor and him kind of seemed like he was able to fight, but just kind of preferred not to. Maybe wasn't at his 100% again. So I'm not gonna shit on Saryukian for this one. It is what it is. Let's just talk about the actual main event here that actually did go down. Makhachev versus Moicano. As a Moicano fan, I was pretty excited when this one got announced. Like, I understand that the other one would have been what we all kind of came to see. But, like, let me tell you something. It was pretty cool to see, man. And I thought that we were going to be in for an exciting fight no matter what. And it didn't end up delivering. Obviously, Makhachev, it hurts me to say it, but with the round one submission over Moicano. And then you hear Moicano hopping on the mic afterwards. Let me tell you something. Okay. I am very sad. I do not know if I will get opportunity like this again. And he's right, because to get to this opportunity and to get to this point and to just be submitted in the first round, I'm sure it might crush him a bit, especially with the confidence that he had. I cannot afford to lose. And he lost, man. I hope he can afford it, bro. But I hope Moicano bounces back. Maybe let's give him like the winner of like a Pimblett versus Chandler next. It's a way for him to kind of move up in the rankings regardless. But I got a feel for Moicano, and I don't think this says anything bad about him at all. At the end of the day, you're dealing with the pound for pound #1 king. And even Dana White admitted that shit. So that's how you know that A, John Jones is probably retiring, and B, It's a lot more valid when the boss is saying it, when he's been having his foot fucking down, mouth in other places for Jones. Like when it comes to him being the pound for pound king. And now Makhachev, his era is finally here. Now, if you want to say that Khabib is still the lightweight GOAT, you gotta get the fuck out of this point, bro. You gotta get out, alright? Before this fight, I think it was pretty valid. But Makhachev now has the most title defenses at lightweight. Because when you have 3 champions alone that were tied at the title defense record, Makhachev finally broke through. And, like, his resume is just speaking for itself. Now, is Renato Moicano the craziest win in the world? No, it's not. All right, but this is a guy who had a full camp. He was ready for this, Maybe not the most ideal conditions for either or, but, like, this whole narrative that Makhachev only faces short notice opponents, only faces featherweights. Get the fuck out of here with that. Moicano was fully prepared for this. Physically, yes, and mentally, maybe not, but still. And Moicano, look at Khabib, who is, like, the lightweight GOAT for some people before this fight, right? Ally Aquinta, he took to a competitive decision. Granted, he clearly won, but like took him, not only is it quality-wise of opponent less of a good win, but the way he did it was just less impressive. So for people that want to make the Moicano and Ally Aquinta comparisons, get the fuck out with that, all right? Makhachev, in my opinion, is the lightweight GOAT. The thing is, when you talk about getting him closer to like GOAT status overall, we're talking about getting close to like that Mount Rushmore. I don't know if this win's going to move him up a ton, but he did go out there and he did what he had to do, Moicano gave him a little bit of adversity on the feet at first, which is wild to even say that because nobody was expecting Moicano, of all things, to give Makhachev adversity on the feet. But Moicano was moving forward with the pressure. He was trying to dictate where it went. But the thing is, once it was like a knockdown or ended up being a slip, I think, because like at the time when I was watching it live, I thought that Moicano got a fucking knockdown over Makhachev. I just started laughing, bro. I'm like, no way. In this night of big upsets, in this night of like Team Khabib, we just saw Umar lose. No way that Moicano is actually about to become champ, but reality came, slapped me in the face, and reality's name was Islam Makhachev, because the second that Islam took this fight to the ground, you could tell that he was just so comfortable down there. And Moicano, clearly this is going to be where the fight was going to be the most competitive, because Moicano's got solid ground game, solid jiu-jitsu, and Makhachev made it look easy, man. And it sucks. It sucks, man, because Moicano, I hope he's going to be able to bounce back, but Makhachev, we're just in his era right now. I don't think it says anything about, oh, Moicano, man, he really needs to go, and like he's fucked, or he was never that good, or anything like that. When you are that guy who is the pound for pound number one, when you're that guy who's getting very close to Mount Rushmore status, if some people don't already have him there already, when you're a guy who's so well-rounded as Islam Makhachev and is riding all the hype in the world and is the champion, the belt's glistening on him, right? As sad as it is to say for Moicano, that is what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, Makhachev went out there and he did what he was supposed to do. And I was saying, like, going into the walkout and stuff like that, I was like, he looks kind of nervous. Maybe he's feeling the pressure, since, like, you got to think he just watched Umar lose, and it was a pretty clear decision. So I was wondering how that was going to affect him mentally. I was like, okay, maybe he's not going to be like 100%. Maybe like the pressure's going to override him. Everything's on it. But champions are built different when it comes to that kind of pressure, man. And Makhachev went out there and proved it. You know, it was a good win for him. I think he made the best with what he could for these certain conditions, and they both just did their part the best they could, man, for Makhachev and Moicano. Moicano, it's got to go back to the drawing board. I feel bad for the guy. Hopefully, again, give him like a winner of a Patty versus Chandler, or a loser, depending on how it is. I don't give a fuck. And Islam Makhachev, man, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, Dana's pissed as hell at Arm, and he's not going to get another title shot. Makhachev's probably going to want to fight around the fall. Hopefully, it's not as late as the October card, because, again, when you're fighting in January, hopefully we could see him get a little more active this year, because we only saw him fight once last year. But again, this next fight, whoever it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. That was Trump, but it ended up just sounding gay as hell. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We will get to Payton Talbott. No, dude, in all seriousness, it was a good win for Makhachev. He's the lightweight GOAT. This next fight that he's going to have, hopefully in like the late summer, early fall, it's going to be huge for his legacy. And I hope that it's somebody who, since it's not going to be Armin, I hope that it might just be the double champ status at this point, because I don't know what a win over, like, what, another win over Dan Hooker is going to do. Granted, probably a more prepared Dan Hooker, but like, what? And now we're just doing Makhachev versus Gaethje. Like, if Gaethje's able to win, like, Makhachev really is just really starting to clear out the division. I know people are talking about Topuria versus Makhachev. Like, maybe you could do that. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, in timeline-wise, it might work out, because I think Volkan Topuria is probably going to go down around like by that Miami time, maybe like a May card, so I don't know. Makhachev is just that good, man. We're in his era. He moved up and is now the lightweight GOAT. Again, overall, pound for pound, GOAT status. I don't think it moves him up too much, but he went out there and did what he's supposed to do. This guy has great striking. This guy has a good chin. This guy has great cardio. He has great fight IQ. He's got elite grappling. And I'm happy that Dana is finally giving him some respect. This is what it means, Dana. This is what it means to be pound for pound number one. And it really is, man. Like, you got to give it to Islam. Like, to be able to just wake up, I don't give a fuck, brother. And to just accept any guy that they throw at him. Not any guy, but like, and I understand that it is Moicano, but like, and I mean that respectfully. But for Makhachev to really, like Dana said it best himself, this is how you earn pound for pound. This is how you prove yourself as like a genuine champion who's accepting short notice opponents and not giving a shit about it. That's gangster shit. So Makhachev, his stock went up, not only in terms for the fans, not only in terms for his legacy, but also for the boss. I'm excited to see what's next. And best of luck to Moicano, brother. But moving on up next to the co-main event. Let's talk about this. Merab, bro. I was so fucking excited for this one. I was really hoping that Merab was able to pull off this huge upset. I was worried, too, that the judges weren't going to give it to him. But Merab is the bantamweight GOAT. Holy shit, this division needed one bad. Merab was already pretty on the cusp, but like, get out with that Dominic Cruz shit. Get out with the Sterling shit. Get out with the fucking Jan shit, whoever you want to do. Like, dude, Merab, to be able to do that to Umar, man. I was worried that the judges weren't going to give it to him. Like, I could see them pulling a robbery decision. Like, Umar won rounds 1 and 2, and rounds 3, 4, 5 were clearly from Merab. But I could just see them pulling a robbery. Some kind of bullshit for Nurmagomedov. I know people were even saying going into this, like, if it's a close fight, man, I could see them giving it to Umar. But thankfully, the judges were good tonight. Seriously, and like, I just want to say that as a side note, throughout the entire card, like, the judges were actually on point. We didn't see any crazy robberies. We didn't see any robberies in general. general. So the judges were on point. And I forgot the name of the dude. Maybe it's Chris Lieben. That doesn't sound right. But like one of the controversial judges, I believe, was in this co-main specifically, but ended up scoring it right. It was like 2 judges had it 48-47 and 1 had it 49-46. So Merab became the bantamweight GOAT. He beat the boring allegations because this one fight of the night, I'm pretty sure, or no, maybe it was Prochazka versus Hill, or maybe Prochazka just got like the performance bonus. I don't know, but like we just saw a little bit of everything in this one. You know what I mean? There was a good storyline going into it. Like, okay, both guys are kind of hurt, but now they're on Umar's terms. Like now they're fighting before Ramadan. The UFC clearly is pushing Umar. Umar was trying to be respectful. Rob, I never disrespect you, but you're also not Georgian. So then seeing Umar slowly kind of turn into like being humble and then starting to talk a bit of shit towards the end, and Merab, who was just so angry, so passionate, wanted to really go out there and prove something. He didn't give a fuck if it had to be like a short notice fight. He didn't give a fuck if he was injured going into it. He made a quick turnaround. He knew what he was up against. He knew he was on Umar's terms, and he went out there and still won against all odds. He beat the boring allegations. He became the bantamweight. Go, yeah, Merab. Yeah, Merab. Sorry. I'm so fucking hyped up for him, dude, because I know how much this does for his legacy. I know how much this does for him and his relationship with the fans. I know how much this does for him and Dana, like, to go out there and prove that you're just that good. So let me actually just talk about this fight. Like I was saying, we saw a little bit of everything. Like, we saw some competitive, back and forth on the feet. We saw these guys try to implement each other's takedowns and, like, who was going to get the better of who. And it was Merab landing 7 takedowns. I got to click on how many attempts were made total. It was a shit ton, especially in the later rounds. And then only 2 successful takedowns from Umar Nurmagomedov. And Merab, get this, because everyone was talking about, me included, how Umar had such a big striking advantage going into this one. And granted, Merab was landing a lot of shots. He outstruck Umar. I want to just say that. So he outstruck Umar. But the thing is, because Merab isn't the biggest power puncher in the world, he doesn't have a lot of pop behind his shots. He wasn't able to do too much, but he was landing clean right hooks to start off in the first couple rounds. But the striking really came through for him. And just the wrestling, everything really came through for Merab, I feel like, in like once you kind of hit that third round. There was a clear change of pace. Like the first 2 rounds, yeah, Merab was making it competitive, but like it was clearly pretty up for 2 or 2-0. Sorry, why am I wording that retarded? It was clearly 2 up for Umar. And again, it's not like Merab was getting walked on. When you look at the striking numbers and when you just watch the fight and look at like how Merab was doing, like he was holding his own. It just so happened, you would lean towards Umar in those 2. But Merab completely just took the hell over in that third round. And there was just like, it was like a totally new guy just entered in there. And I think maybe that has to do with the mindset, like, okay, I might be down 2 rounds. No way I'm losing to this motherfucker. So, and Merab just went out there and he trusted the fitness. He trusted the cardio because it really is that good. It really is that good. Like we were watching every damn round of the fight. Like it was just a new Merab that just spawned in. The other one just faded out because it was unbelievable. Unbelievable, as Rogan says. I mean, round 3, Merab showboating. He's smiling in there. He's doing a little this, doing a little that, doing a little doodads, man. Like he's showboating for the fans. They're fucking loving it. He's out striking him on the feet. He was able to efficiently take him down. He was able to efficiently sprawl or stuff against Umar's takedown attempts because in total, man, Umar landed only 2 total out of 15 attempts, and then Merab landed 7 out of 30. And when we got to that 4th and 5th, I knew it was fucking over. That 4th round specifically, man, Merab just took off with the striking. His takedown, like he just was looking so good, and you couldn't believe the cardio. You couldn't believe that he was outlanding Umar and outpiecing him, and Umar just looked exhausted in there. And when it all came down to that 5th round, all right, and Umar's on the stool, out of breath like a motherfucker, and Khabib is just, you could tell there's such a high urgency coming from him. And Merab on the other end ain't even sitting on the stool, man. He was ready as fuck. He was ready to get after it because it was 2-2 going into the 3rd. I was scared they were going to do a robbery, and I knew that it all came down to that. But Merab anyways, he's going out there, and even though Umar technically outstruck him in the 5th, Merab was able to take him down, man, and he was just spamming it, even though a lot of them were unsuccessful in the 5th, he still was able to make his point clear. He clearly won that round. He clearly won the fight. And I'm on top of the world for this guy. Because I was saying, man, people forget, man. But like I was saying, dude, there just doesn't seem something right. Like the fact that nobody is picking Merab. The fact that like Umar is just being so trusted in right now. Even though we only saw him really get a good win high quality of caliber opponent-wise against Corey Sandhagen, and Merab has already beaten 4 former champions, and now the first to defeat the Nurmagomedovs, bro. Like, I'm so happy for this guy, man. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with him next, because who the hell is going to beat this guy? Like, the 2 closest guys next are Jan or O'Malley, and he smoked both of those guys, you know? So maybe just have Jan and O'Malley, maybe they book it back, but I could see the UFC just giving the shot to O'Malley or something like that. But Merab, man, I'm happy as hell for the guy. Totally deserves his big moment. Hopefully he can get some proper rest now, because obviously I know he was going rushed into this one. So maybe like a turnaround for like sometime in the summer, sometime in the early fall, you know, for Merab Dvalishvili. Such a wild fight too. It was so good. So Umar looked good in those first couple rounds, really was doing well with the kicks to the body especially, but Merab's endurance, Merab's chin, Merab's well-roundedness, maybe not well-roundedness, but like we saw good action from Merab on the feet, man. I love it, dude. So, moving on, up next to the feature bout for this one. There's sanity in the MMA world, bro, all right? Prochazka ended up knocking out Jamahal Hill in the 3rd round. Jamahal Hill, man, you know, shit on him for as much as you want, and I was going into this saying that he's pretty underrated regardless, but man, he did look solid. You know, he won the 2nd round. He was landing nice to the body in the 1st and the 2nd, like, there just wasn't anything that Jamahal Hill did great in this fight, you know? The 1st round, Jiri clearly won that one, you know? Got a knockdown over Hill, I believe, and overall was just landing the better shots. Hill looked all right, again, was landing all right to the body, solid head movement, but Jiri, on the other hand, yeah, his hands were down, or his arms were down, whatever the fuck you want to call it, for way too much of the fight, but you could tell that he was trying to make improvements, you know? And his head movement, in general, was actually really good for this one. The way he's just such a hard, unorthodox style to prepare for, man, like, you could tell it was kind of confusing Hill in there, and especially when it got to that 3rd round when Prochazka just fully unloaded. Like, you could tell that, you know, maybe both guys sensed it was 1-1 because Prochazka took the 1st, Hill took the 2nd. Obviously, in the 2nd, I think they both landed eye pokes on each other, but I think Prochazka's end of it was a lot worse. He seemed a lot more just like physically fucking in pain in there. Had to take a lot longer to kind of heal up. You never know, because maybe Hill was fucking suffering, but ended up just dealing with it. But it seemed like Prochazka got the worst of those two. So the round 2 wasn't the most exciting round in the world, you know, because again, the eye pokes kind of put a halt in both guys' momentum. When each guy was trying to pick up on shit, that's kind of when the eye pokes happened. So it was kind of unfortunate timing. But then in the 3rd, you can kind of tell that it was 1-1. And Prochazka just put forward this relentless pressure. And he was just on Hill. The second he smelled blood in the water, dude, got that knockdown in the 3rd and was just on him. But Hill was able to efficiently get back up, but then it just went right back down to the mat, man. And Prochazka was able to get the knockout. So amazing performance from Prochazka. Glad I got this pick right, because I was going with Hill for most of it. But like I was saying, man, if Prochazka was able to fight with just a little bit better fight IQ, if he was able to keep his hands up for just a little bit more of the time, man, if his chin was recovered and the last performance didn't just dictate his entire fucking career, which it clearly did not, Prochazka's chin is still clearly now one of his best assets, then I think he was able to win. And he did. He put forward a great pressure. That's how he won the 1st and the 3rd. That's how he was able to get the better of Hill in the striking exchanges, man. Like, Hill was landing nice to the body. Hill was able to hold his own. And again, like, most of the time he was able to kind of recover a solid amount against Prochazka, but the pressure that Prochazka puts on people and the power that he has behind his strikes and just the way that he keeps you guessing, that's how he was able to get the better of Hill. I don't know what the fuck Jamahal is going to do now. He's probably going to get a ton of heat. I kind of feel bad for the dude, but I'm also just so happy that Prochazka won, man, because not only for the whole storyline with him and the lady that had cancer, that was wholesome as fuck to see that the MMA community, like, for as just wild and out of pocket as some of us and some of y'all could be, like, I'm glad that everyone came together for this one. Like, everybody, all the homies wanted to see Jiri win this one, unless you had Hill in a parlay or some shit like that, or you're just a Jamahal fan. Like, I feel like everyone was really coming together. We really wanted to see Prochazka win this one. It was a wholesome storyline going into this, and just to see Jiri kind of prove that he really is the 2nd best in the division, dude. I think we're just in Alex Pereira's era right now, you know what I mean? But like, if Pereira's not there, you got to think that literally, I think Prochazka would be the champion right now. I think it's just one of those situations. So it says a lot about how good Pereira is, and it says a lot, this performance, about how good Prochazka is. Because if you look at the guy's record, he's like 31-5, and before the Pereira losses, he was like 30-3. So the dude is so good in there. He's so well-rounded. He's got such a dynamic, fun style. Really earned over the fans with this, or really earned the love from the fans with this one, with the whole Cancer Lady storyline going to this, and just Jiri always puts on on fun fights, dude. That's why we knew this one was going to be a barn burner. That's why we knew this one was going to be a banger. Both these guys needed momentum. Both these guys needed to put on a statement, and they fucking did. And especially Prochazka. It was a great fight. Totally deserved the bonus. Curious what's going to be next for both guys. But Prochazka, man, proving that he's still in it. He's that motherfucker, man. Always putting on entertaining fights. Always getting great finishes in there. So Prochazka, man, fights like a motherfucker, and gotta love to see it. Really appreciate it. And it was a fun fight in general. So, moving on up next to Jailton Almeida versus Sergei Spivac. Dude, I swear for a second they scared me into thinking that Spivac was gonna win the fight. Spivac came and he was able to take down Almeida within like the first, I believe, like minute or two, and I got scared as shit, dude. And then Spivac was kind of piecing him up a little bit with some ground and pound, not the nasty shots in the world, but he was landing some solid elbows, and I'm like, oh fuck no, dude, because I knew if Spivac won that heavyweight was cooked. So I'm glad that Almeida was able to get a finish in here. So yeah, there were some interesting scrambles here, but ultimately it was Almeida that got the better of Spivac here. Once the fight got up to the feet, kind of within that last minute range, Almeida landed, I believe, a nice right hook that was able to kind of rock Spivac. Almeida was immediately on him with the pressure. Tried to go for his back, I believe, at one point. I might be tripping about that. The end of the fight was kind of blurry, but at the end of the day, I know that it ended up with Spivac laying on the mat and Almeida just on top, coming in with some nice ground and pound. Eventually, he won via TKO. So it's nice for Almeida to kind of get after it. Nice for this fight to kind of go and prove that there's sanity at heavyweight. And not only that, but Almeida probably wasn't a big fan of him being on the prelims. He probably knew that he had to go out there and get a finish. I was doing the fight companion while doing it, but from what I was seeing on the promo or the interview afterwards, I got to go and rewatch that because the crowd went boo, and then the crowd went yeah, and then the crowd went boo, and then the crowd went yeah. So I don't know what the motherfucker was saying, but it was just ultimately a good win for Almeida. Really needed to kind of get the hype back. He's going to be able to now maintain that number 6 spot. And let's give this guy, if he's, I don't know what the hell's going on with Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall, but maybe let's give this guy a Volkov or a Gane next. Let's just give somebody in that top 5 to Almeida next. I feel like he's starting to deserve it a bit more. He's coming off he's on a 2-fight, pretty solid win streak right now, one over Romanov and now Spivac. So kind of beating, the Apex blah vibe, but not the worst comp in the world, and he's able to go out there, and you could tell that he's hungry for a finish. Really wants to be officially back on main cards without having Moicano to step in and everything just get fucked for him to earn it. So, and just in general, man, Almeida looked good tonight, when it came to the scrambles and when it came to the events that occurred on the ground. Again, it was pretty scary at first. I thought Spivac was really gonna fucking win. I had to slap myself in the face a little bit, waterboard, wake myself up, snap myself out of the dream, but Almeida looked good. And even on the feet, even with the striking exchanges, even with the ground and pound, like, significant strike accuracy too, 74%. So Almeida was a motherfucker tonight, and ultimately good win for him. So moving on, up next to Reiner versus Kevin Holland. I told y'all, man, you can't pick Kevin Holland. You don't know which version's gonna show up, and he doesn't do well at middleweight most of the time. I'm not talking about 2020 Holland, man. He was on a tear, man. He knocked out he knocked out Sosa when he's off his back. But Holland at middleweight, these guys, I understand Holland's a big dude in his own right. He's trying to fight fucking Rampage now, but like, Holland is just, he's not big enough for middleweight, especially when it comes to guys who are primarily grapplers. Like, you're going off of Roman to Lindsay, who I understand that was a fluke loss, but Reiner to Ritter, who clearly was going to have the grappling advantage in this one. Now, granted, I thought Kevin Holland was going to have the speed advantage and the striking advantage, and I thought that even despite De Ritter being like a former double one champ, I thought Holland's fought better competition overall, but like, just because, the UFC's the UFC, but RDR went out there, man, and I knew the submission was coming, man. RDR, that was my underdog pick of the night, but I think he ended up turning into like a slight favorite. I'm pretty sure like the final odds, he was like a minus 120 or 130. So RDR, man, the odds makers knew what the fuck was up. He immediately came out there, was able to get Holland down within like the first 20 or 30 seconds, I believe. And from there, RDR was just on him. Like, Holland didn't have any moments at all in this fight. RDR did not give him a chance for a second. He was looking for that sub from the second that the fight started. And once he got the takedown in, he knew that he fucking smelled blood in the water, because Holland, he's fucking yelled at him from the bottom and shit and just didn't have anything. I think like the best moment that Kevin Holland had was like a fucking up kick that he was able to land. But other than that, and I might even be tripping about that. Other than that, Kevin Holland just said nothing in this one. He was just yelling at him from the bottom, and RDR was just hungry and hunting for that submission. He knew he wanted to get a finish. He knew there was big pressure, big lights, main card opener for a really big pay-per-view. So RDR went and did his job, and you got to give him somebody in that top 15 next, I believe, because he's 34 years of age, so kind of right in the middle of his prime. I know it's middleweight, so age matters a little bit less in these lighter weight weight classes. But I think a big criticism going into this for RDR was like people were saying about, oh man, GM3 of all people. Yeah, it was impressive to submit GM3, but people were saying like, if GM3's fucking you up on the feet, man, imagine what Kevin Holland's gonna do. Kevin Holland didn't do shit, bro. So it went to go and show how good the RDR was. And I know another thing too, everyone's talking about the drunk man, sloppy man style, man. We have the DDP at home head ass. And you know what? You could argue that's what RDR is. He's literally built like some tall, lengthy, he's got a weird build, bro. You know when you were a kid and you were in the Mii shop or whatever and you're making your Miis all funky and weird looking on purpose? That's what RDR is, bro. And that's how the dude fights. So he's got the drunk man, sloppy man style. If we ever get RDR versus DDP, you're literally going to have to wear drunk vision goggles to be able to see the fight normally. So yeah, man. So RDR, I'm excited to see what's next for him because he's just one of those guys. He's just got that funky style, but I feel like he's going to go pretty far, especially kind of when I'm looking at the certain matchups for him in middleweight. I don't know what they're going to give him next, but I think let's give him somebody in the rankings. God forbid, please not like a Shara Bullet or some shit, because that's a dead man walking for that kind of matchup against RDR. But maybe like a Michel Pereira next, kind of somebody who's ranked right now at that number 15 spot, but it's definitely winnable, especially if RDR makes it past the first fucking 2 minutes. So because Michel Pereira kind of well-rounded in his own rights, and he's explosive and relentless, that could actually be a really fun fight. That's actually a nice kind of opener to a pay-per-view as well. Gets RDR into the rankings, and it's kind of just a fun matchup. Both guys are going to be hungry for the finish. So yeah, I'm excited for your RDR, man. Good win for RDR, and it goes to show what the fuck do you do with Kevin Holland, man? He needs to just go down to welterweight, I feel like, full-time. I like that the dude is active, man. I like that he wants to put on shows for the fans. At least he's honest about it. He's upfront about it. He says he doesn't give a fuck about the belt. He says it comes with a bunch of bullshit. He says he just wants to go be active and put on fun for performances, and like the fans know which version of him is going to show up. And in one hand, I can appreciate that, but on the other hand, dude, it's just, I feel like it's starting to piss people off a little bit. I feel like it's starting to like turn people the wrong way, because you don't want someone who's just trying to lose and look cool while doing it, man. You know what I mean? Like, and what, he's going to be like a Mikhail Oleksiejczuk or a Michael Chiesa, but then all of a sudden when it comes to like top 15 guys or guys that are on a rise like RDR, it's just, you know what's going to come. So just can't bet or pick on Kevin Holland a lot of the time, man, unless I feel like he's like some big favorite or shit. But it is what it is. So happy for DeRitter on this one. Moving on up next to Raoni Barcelos versus Payton Talbott. So I had Talbott in every single one of my parlays. Had 6 of them. He fucked me out of this one, bro. Pause. But dude, Talbott, listen, I do want to not give him a bunch of shit. All right, I got heat for him because fuck that, man. Screwed me out of all my damn parlays. Second biggest favorite of the night. But here's the thing. I'm not going to give him too much slack because the kid's only 9-1. Okay, well, it was 9-0. Now he's 9-1. He's 26 years old. There's clearly time to improve. The second round, he looked good. And in the third, at least he had a couple moments. But overall, this was just a dominant victory from Raoni Barcelos. And he completely went out there. A massive underdog win, dude. Not only in like the fan poll I put out. Not only in like you see Tapology polls and shit. And just the betting odds in general, right? Raoni Barcelos, I feel like most people going in this fight, they thought he was a dead man walking, but he went out there. And Payton Talbott, again, had good moments in the second round. You could maybe argue it was close enough he could win it, but I don't even think so. But at least he looked solid. But just Barcelos was outstriking him. Barcelos' chin was able to hold up to the good shots that Talbott did throw. Barcelos was just relentless with the takedowns, man. Payton Talbott got one in like the third round, I believe. But other than that, 8 takedowns for Raoni Barcelos, man, and then 2 close submission attempts. And it's like Barcelos just went out there and made Talbott look like he didn't even belong, which is what so many people were saying Talbott was going to do to him. Talbott, though, you know, his striking is still there. His striking is clean. It's solid. He's got a lot of power and pop behind his shots. He's got to worry about keeping his hands up, though. Like, the hands were very down, especially as the fight was progressing, and Barcelos was able to catch him a lot cleaner. He's got to really fix that. I know he did that in, like, the Simon fight as well, but it worked out a lot better for him in that one. But Barcelos, man, I think this was just a good test for him. Barcelos is a guy who's, like, going into this fight, I think he was, like, 7-4. Something like that, 8-4 in the UFC. He's been around for a while, and he's solid, and he's well-rounded, you know, not the most recognizable name, but pretty fair, like, gatekeeper role, and it's just like, Talbot just wasn't able to get past that test, but he's young enough and talented enough where I think that he can go back to the drawing board. I think he's able to really make improvements in the wrestling here, because at the end of the day, man, he's got to get after it a bit more offensively, and he's got to work on it more defensively. Like, if Barcelos is dominating you on the ground like that, and Barcelos is just Barcelos, he's not the craziest talent in the world, and especially kind of getting a bit older now, and it's just, when you're getting dominated on the ground like that, it's concerning, because like the striking is there, the pressure that he wants to put on guys is there. And he's got like, the UFC is clearly behind him, but it's just Barcelos was just meant tonight, I feel like, to be that stepping stone for Talbott. And he ended up getting a great win. So Talbott, I don't know what the fuck you're going to do with him. He's really going to have to go and work on the grappling department. Because I just thought that he was going to be able to hold his own down there. Defensively, he seemed pretty all right. I know that there were a lot of question marks offensively, but like, I made a prospects video the other day. I put him as my best bantamweight prospect. So I gotta control out delete that bullshit, bro. But I'm not gonna just hop off the hype train. I definitely think his next fight's probably gonna be a bit more of a favorable matchup to kind of like they could put a little more, gas in the motherfucking tank. Try and hype him up a bit more. But I think this is recoverable for him. Like I just think he really needs to go and drill the damn wrestling and work on his striking defense. He's got to keep the hands up, man. He's got to focus on the head movement a little bit more. Like, I don't know. He's very hittable in there, and obviously you can clearly take him down against a guy who's just solid. So massive underdog upset. There were a few tonight, and Payton Talbott was just another one of the fighters like Umar and like another guy we're gonna get to that lost their undefeated streak. So I think he'll bounce back. But again, really has to work on the head movement, really has to work on keeping his hands up, and really has to work on the wrestling. But happy for Barcelos, man. That was a massive fucking upset. So moving on up next to Azamat, Bekoev versus Zachary. Reese obviously had original opponent, I think Cedricus Dumas. But Bekoev stepped in on like a couple days notice, someone crazy like that, and he was able to go out there and get a good solid TKO. So the thing is, my stream was bugging bad on this one, so I actually have to rewatch this because I really only caught the finish, but I heard there was like some controversy behind it and shit, so I don't even genuinely know what to say about this. I literally only I was tuning in and out of it because it just kept, we all know what happens with the streams and all the bullshit, man. ESPN, not ESPN, sometimes it lags the fuck out, and unfortunately I missed fucking most of this fight for literally, it was only 3 minutes in general, but I kind of just saw the TKO go down, so I'm gonna have to go and rewatch that one. So apologies, I really don't have much to say. But Bekoev, it's a great UFC debut. I know Zachary Reese isn't the craziest opponent, but for short notice, and for Iron Bekoev, man, really trying to just look for a big opportunity and to make a statement, and especially when this card was riding so many decisions kind of going into the kind of this period of the card. So it was needed, and it's a good debut to have. Sorry, I don't have more to say. I'm gonna have to rewatch this as soon as this one's over. Or as soon as I'm done recording this shit. So moving on up next to Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana. If you're Johnny Walker, you were pissed watching that, because with Johnny Walker, who's a guy who his wrestling's pretty underrated and kind of an overlooked aspect in his game, and just Walker really needed to get another win. Guskov, man, looked very human in there, bro. Yeah, he was able to get a win, but Billy Elekana coming in, and this isn't like a Moicano, okay? This is a genuine short notice opponent. I'm pretty sure only found out on a few days notice or someone like that. Moicano at least had a cam. Moicano was at least prepped and ready for something. But this was just, and I'm pretty sure Billy Elekana, the commentary kept saying that he's like a middleweight, and because it was short notice and everything, he stepped up a weight class. So this honestly is a guy who, it could be like a Diego Lopez situation, man, where they lose their UFC debut, but they come back, and you got to consider that short notice is a real thing, and it really can fuck some guys up, especially when you're going against, there's so much pressure, and you're immediately going against a top 15 guy. And Billy, though, man, immediately went out there and took Guskov's back in the first round. It was very fast, too. Was able to get some nice elbows in there. Was able to land some nice shots. And then he almost had him in a couple close submission attempts. Nothing too crazy, though. Wasn't able to really get anything locked in under the chin, so I shouldn't even really call anything like a close submission attempt. But the fact that he was efficiently able to be on his back for most of the first round, he clearly won the first round, which that alone over Guskov, who is riding some hype right now, that alone is impressive. And just the whole short notice thing, you could tell that Elekana was very because I didn't know who this dude was at all. I'm going to be honest, just going into this one. But for him to look that good, and for him to win the first round, for him to efficiently take Guskov's back. Now, granted, Guskov came back at the end of the first, and then he totally turned the tables, but I don't think that was even enough to win him the round. So you could just tell, though, with Elekana that, visibly, you could see it on his face. He knew that he wasn't going to have a lot of endurance. He knew he needed to get the fight done with sooner than later. I think that's why he put forward such a high tenacity to begin with, and just immediately went for the dude's back, and, was trying to take him out in the first. And dude made it competitive, man, but you could just tell that, like, he didn't want the fight to go too long. He didn't have the cardio for it. Like, I'm pretty sure even, like, commentary was saying, like, once he got into the corner, like, he just was just shaking his head to what they were saying. He was just, like, visibly upset in there that he didn't have, like, the fitness or whatever. And, dude, Guskov, we even saw in the second round when Guskov eventually was able to come back, was able to kind of just get the better of him on the feet, was landing good shots and combinations. There was at one point where Elekana had, like, a knee. I'm sorry if I'm botching this dude's name, by the way, but he had, like, a knee on the ground. He was backed up against the fence, and Guskov just kind of, like, gave him 2 seconds maybe to, like, get back up, and he just didn't move at all. So you could tell whether if it was mental or just physically, like, the gas was completely drained for him. But honestly, man, that was a solid debut to have. Like, Guskov ended up getting a fucking submission over him. He ended up getting a ghillie of all fucking things. But it was a good win for Guskov-ish. Like, he just seemed very human in there, and against a guy who was stepping up a weight class, had all the pressure on the world on him, and, like, just wanted to go out there and, like, wasn't really prepared for this fight at all against a guy like Guskov who was training and had a full camp. Like, I understand that Guskov probably had an original game plan for Walker, and, like, it's probably not easy to deal with, like, even regardless if you're in physical shape, to deal with a last minute change opponent. So, like, I can understand that must have been frustrating and hard to deal with. And the dude still got around to submission, but he just looked very mortal in there, man. And Elekana had great moments. The second round, again, completely gassed out or mentally died in there. But this is a guy we're now going into his next fight, especially if it's going to be at middleweight, his weight class. People are going to have his eyes on him. And for Guskov, you know, not the greatest win in the world, but it is a win. It continues the win streak. It is a finish, which the card really... This was, at this point, the first finish of the night. So it was something, man. Guskov seems like he's got a good personality. He's looking for the finish for most of the time. So as fans, we can appreciate shit like that. So moving on up next to Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. KGD, baby. I'm a big Grant Dawson fan, man. So I'm glad he was able to pull this one through. This was weird because I feel like for the most part, not the most exciting fight in the world, but when it got good, it got really fucking good. Like, when it came to certain scrambles or when it came to just these guys going back and forth on the feet, it actually was pretty entertaining. But when Dawson was Dawsoning and he was just kind of building up the control time and kind of just smothering him and drowning him on there and was able to efficiently, you know, take him down and hold him down, which that alone is impressive. I know that people are going to shit on this win for Grant Dawson, but get the fuck out of here with that. I'm standing my base, bro. This was a great win for Grant Dawson because Diego Ferreira never in his UFC career has been a guy where he really gets dominated on the ground. Like, usually he's efficiently able to get back up, or at the very least, if you do get him down, you're not able to keep him down there for very long. So Grant Dawson, when it came to the wrestling, he looked great tonight, and I understand he's dealing with a 40-year-old in there, but, like, Diego Ferreira was a guy who some people genuinely thought he was going to win, and he's coming off of a couple fight good win streak and both fight finish. He looked like he was at the best he's ever been in his career despite reaching 40. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday was the day he actually turned 40. So that's always a rough fucking birthday. Remember when, like, RDR got fucked up by Jeff Neal recently and that was on his birthday? I gotta feel bad with that kind of shit. Overall, what Grant Dawson was able to do on the ground to Ferreira was impressive, but what really stuck out to me in this fight was Grant Dawson striking, especially in the first round. This guy was throwing spinning back hits. He was throwing wheel kicks. This dude was just throwing, like, very crazy dynamic striking that we really haven't seen from him before. Now, granted, was it like the cleanest shit in the world? No, it wasn't. But the fact that he was landing through, the fact that he was at least throwing, the fact that you could tell he was kind of hungry to prove a statement, like, I think he ended up clearly kind of gassing out, and that's why he relied a lot more on the control time in the wrestling, kind of in, like, especially the second. But it was a good win for Grant Dawson. It was wild to see him kind of throw that kind of striking in general because we're not used to it, but I think he knows, man, that he needs finishes. I think he knows that he needs to, his grappling is clearly there, his wrestling is there, but I think he just needs to work on the striking, and I think that's why going into this fight, we saw a bit of improvements there, and we saw that he was trying to get after it, maybe even look for a knockout that wasn't ground and pound, you know what I mean? But Grant Dawson, man, the dude is good. Let's fucking give somebody in this guy in the rankings next, please, man. Whether I'm a fan or not, whether I'm biased or not, I think it's time for Dawson to get somebody in the rankings, man. Curious to see who they give it to him, but, like, this guy's only lost in the UFC to Bobby Green. Other than that, he's beaten every other opponent he's had, and most of the time in impressive fashion. So I get that, again, sometimes not the most exciting fighter in the world. You could even say that maybe about this performance, but, like, when this fight got good, it got good. Fiererra was able to bring it to him as much as he could, but overall, Dawson's wrestling, Dawson's control time, Dawson's ability to just drown you in there, and the fact that he was able to hold his own on the feet despite his cardio kind of gassing out maybe in, like, the later half of the fight. But Dawson, it was still a good win. So I understand some people are getting that shit on it, but get the fuck out of here with that, please, bro. All right, so moving on up next to, here we go, dude. Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. Dude, so you could say what you want about Umar losing a 0 tonight, and you could say what you want about Talbott losing a 0 tonight, and both those guys were big favorites. But, dude, Nakamura went out there and just completely the fight IQ. The reason why this one's a different loss is because you could at least tell that Umar and Talbott tried everything in their arsenal. They used all the tools they had. They were really kind of searching to just win the fight in any way they could, man. And you could tell that they were trying to make it as competitive as they could. But Rinya Nakamura, bro, who going into this fight, we all knew primarily a wrestler. If there was a way he was going to win, the reason he was such a big favorite, like, the reason people were putting hype behind him is because we could see some good old Japanese wrestling, man. He was a good wrestler. He came from a good wrestling background. From what we saw in the UFC, wasn't a big finisher by any means at all. I don't even think he had any to begin with in the UFC, but what we saw from his wrestling still was impressive, and he was a good prospect to invest in. But dude, the reason I'm pissed as hell is this shit, and he cooked me on half my fucking parlays. Talbot ended up killing in all of them, but whatever. I can at least understand. At least Talbot fucking went out there and tried and used everything he had. Rinya Nakamura did not throw a single takedown. Maybe one, if anything, but if it wasn't for just the one, he wasn't shooting takedowns the entire fight. And like, that was his style to win. That's how his style in general wins fights. That's how he's able to get guys out of there. That's how he's able to dominate. If you don't shoot a takedown at all, what are you doing, son? I get that, like, you know, probably made improvements in the striking and probably knew he wanted to go get a finish, probably knew that, like, he wanted to show off what he had. But if you lose that first round, which he did, and Gafurov was able to, I think, either get a knockdown in or just in general was able to, like, just beat him up in the second half of that first round with some mean shots. So going into the second, it's like, okay, your striking didn't really work out, whether you made improvements or not. Like, I know you're looking for a finish, but it's more important to just fucking win. And Nakamura just still was just refusing to shoot takedowns. Again, if there was one shot that he threw, that was probably it. But other than that, I don't remember a damn time that he was shooting in this fight. That was his path to victory. And even when these guys got in the scrambles, Nakamura looked solid, but like, there was just nothing there, bro. He wasn't trying to take this fight to the ground at all. And that's frustrating as fuck to watch. It's not like I want to watch Nakamura just fucking lay and smother and just do nothing and just get a boring ass 30-27. It's not like I want to watch that, okay? And again, I had Nakamura in a few parlays, so maybe I'm biased. But bro, in general, when you're watching somebody fight and you know they're not using the shit that got him to the dance, what are you doing? Nakamura's path to victory clearly was trying to go in there and wrestle. And Gafurov, look, he's a solid talent. I'm not just trying to talk about Nakamura the whole time. Like, Gafurov is solid, but hasn't had the best run in the UFC, so I'm happy that he was able to go and get a big upset. But like, dude, and he did look good in this fight. Like, he was able to piece him up pretty good with the striking, so I gotta give it to him there. And I'm pretty sure he even was able to get a knockdown in, whether it be in the first or the third, or I don't even fucking remember what it was. This fight, I was just pissed at Nakamura, bro. So it was a good performance from Gafurov. He's a guy that lost most of his fights in the UFC to begin with, but I think he's got a couple fight win streak going on now. So in that regard, I'm happy for the dude. He had good striking in this one, and he was able to efficiently hold his own on the ground and in the scrambles. But Nakamura, dude, just, it's rough, man. He's a young, upcoming Japanese talent, man, and like, they really need some guys besides a Kai Asakura or a Tetsuro Taira, who both those guys are coming off of losses. Japan needs a star and a prospect to goddamn invest in, bro. And Nakamura was one of the ones that people were talking about, but this is gonna hold him back, dude. His striking just, it was very patient and technical in there, but like, there wasn't anything great about it, man. And when the wrestling, we didn't see shit. All right, we didn't see dick, man. And it's just, it's unfortunate. So good win for Gafurov. I don't know what the fuck to do with him. Nakamura really has to not only fix the striking, but know how to just improve the fight IQ, man. You have to know how to mix it up. You have to have a balance of both. It can't just be one way or the other, man. So I don't fucking know. So moving on up next to Bernardo Sopaj defeating Ricky Turcios. Don't remember too much about this fight, but it was a pretty good scrap. Pretty sure Turcios, you could argue, won the first round. But overall, Sopaj looked good. I'm pretty sure every judge gave him a 30-27. Close exchanges on the feet, especially when it comes to the striking numbers. But Sopaj was able to get a knockdown in. He just, overall, I think he just looked better in this fight. When it came to the wrestling, when it came to the scrambles, when it came to just whatever the fuck went down on the ground, Turcios, and just, let's just talk about, honestly, this fight was a lot closer than I feel like every judge pretty much giving it a 30-27. I actually, never mind, one of them gave it a 29-28, but still, Turcios had solid moments in this one. Was really unsuccessful with takedown attempts. Pretty sure he missed most of the damn things. I think he went, well, I got it right here. He went 1 for 9, and he was able to get a couple minutes of control time in there, but Sopaj just looked better. He was able to barely outland him on the feet. He was able to just be more efficient with the takedowns. He shot a lot less, but made more. So, and then just in general, was able to get the better of the control time as well. This was just, it was a good win for Sopaj. It was actually a solidly entertaining fight as well. You could tell Tercios was really frustrated after it didn't go his way. You know that he really fucking needs some hype right now. He really needs a win. He's just really been falling off. He's a talented bantamweight that you can't really invest in, so I think stakes were high for him. So unfortunately, it didn't go his way. He did go out there and he fucking tried again. When you look at the striking numbers, you know, it was actually relatively close. So I think this fight was a lot more competitive than just a 30-27. You know what I mean? And it was actually solidly entertaining. So Paj is a guy who, with his debut, just being a brutal fucking flying knee from Vinicius Oliveira, who granted Sopaj was looking good in that fight prior to that, man. Oliveira went out there and just completely kind of just fucked it up. So, but Sopaj, I think a lot of us knew that he was still gonna be a good talent. It just so happens that Vinicius Oliveira is also just an amazing prospect on the rise right now. So I don't think it says anything bad. I don't think that loss said anything bad about Sopaj. I just think it went to show how good Oliveira is. But Ricky Tercios, man, you just can't pick this guy, bro. It's unfortunate. At least he tried to get after it again. Solidly entertaining fight. But Sopaj, man, nice prospect to invest in. He's a good talent here. Seems pretty well-rounded. So moving on to the last one we got here. This opened off the card. Tagir Ulanbekov defeating Clayton Carpenter. So Clayton Carpenter actually looked pretty solid in here, but unfortunately, Ulanbekov is out here talking to DC and shit. He's like, I'm gonna do this for the UTC, and then he was able to just cleanly take him down, which kind of sucks, man. Clayton Carpenter, you don't want to hear that shit, the daggy little breath yelling in your ear, but no, it was a good win for Ulanbekov. He was able to look pretty good on the ground. When it came to the striking numbers, these guys were dead even, 42 apiece, but Tagir was able to land 3 takedowns in there. It was efficient. He's just good at efficiently being able to hold guys down there, and for him being 6 fucking foot, I believe, or 5'11", the fact that he can make flyweight's insane. He's a good size and a good frame for flyweights. A little skinny, brother. A little skinny. But, and again, Clayton Carpenter had his good moments. He's another one who lost his undefeated streak tonight. But unlike Nakamura, at least he fucking tried and got after it. And you could even argue that one of the rounds, I forgot which one it was specifically, you could even argue one of the rounds, though, could have went to Carpenter. Or at least he made it close. So, yeah, this was a clear win for Ulanbekov. He looked good. This was a nice shot for Carpenter to try and get in the rankings. Carpenter is still a good prospect to invest in, you know? Carpenter's good on the feet, solid on the ground, but I just think that Ulanbekov was able to he's just, the wrestling is just there, brother. The wrestling is better there, brother. Carpenter, he's still young. He's like 8-1 now. He's clearly going to bounce back, especially for someone like flyweight. You know, he'll be able to be active and rack up a couple good wins. The talent is there. I just think that Ulanbekov was just able to just outsmother him here tonight. And just looked good in the scrambles, looked good with the wrestling. So, yeah, he's somebody who Tiger's going to be a mean motherfucker at flyweight. So, pretty much that is going to be it for the UFC 311 recap. Overall, man, it was a pretty good card. I think once it got to like the Guskov Elekana fight, that's when it really started to pick up. Not only in terms of the finishes, but just more entertaining fights. I mean, Merab Umar wasn't a finish. That was entertaining. Barcelos and Talbott, that wasn't a finish. But besides like the first round, it was actually pretty entertaining. So there were some fun fights on this card. It wasn't the craziest thing in the world. And again, the second half was much, much better than the first, which is disappointing. We just saw decision after decision. And just not too much of great fights. A couple solid ones, but you know what I'm saying. Overall, though, man, we have a new lightweight go. We have a new bantamweight go. Prochazka proved that there's sanity and morality in the MMA world. Almeida is picking up some hype. Kevin Holland, what the fuck do you do with him? RDR with a great finish. I don't know what you do with guys like Talbott, Nakamura, and then like Carpenter, undefeated guys, and Umar as well. I don't know what you're going to do with Umar. Like, I think that Umar is still going to be able to beat most of the bantamweight division. I just think that Merab is too fucking good, man. So it is what it is. So thank you guys so very much. This was a long ass video, I'm pretty sure. So thank you guys so very much for making it this far in the video. All the smoke MMA. Appreciate y'all a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed the card. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think were the best wins? What do you think were the worst losses? Like, what did you just think in general? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. We're just here to talk some MMA. So I appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks for making it this far in the video. Thank you guys for helping me just hit 700 subs. All the smoke MMA. I appreciate y'all, and I will see you all next time.